My Porsche 914 is so fun to drive, but there was a time when I couldn't drive it at all because of rust. Someone even advised me once to scrap it and go find another one. But why would I do that when working on cars is half the fun? The 914 did not come with a galvanized body. They missed that feature by just a few years. Had they been galvanized, there'd be a lot more of them around today. But even in recent times, we saw giants such as Toyota recall thousands of trucks due to rust. And then there's this thing. If you have a 914 that has rust issues, or if you're thinking about buying a 914, this might be the video for you. One day, out in the Texas Hill Country, I came upon a 1973 914 left for dead out in a field. The owner had bought it to restore, but then gave up on it, saying it just had too much rust. He had actually purchased 3 914s in total and gave up on each one after partially disassembling and finding rust issues. The blue car was a factory 2.0 fitted with sway bars and originally painted in Alaska blue. I just couldn't leave it in a field. I repaired all the rust, backdated it with some choice trim and wheels, and even replicated the original corduroy seats. After an extensive restoration, it turned out to be a beautiful car. But was it too much work? And could another 914 have been found with less rust? I'm going to be comparing the work I did on this Alaska blue to another running example, also in Alaska blue. This one was supposed to be rust-free, but was it? It may surprise you to find that the amount of rust on this car left in a field is not too much more than what was found on a running example. How much rust is too much rust for a 914? And should or can all 914s be saved? For this video comes another Alaska Blue 914. This one was not sitting out in a field, but was presumed to be mostly rust-free. Detailed photos of the chassis did not reveal any major problems, except for perhaps the hideous wheels. And here it is now, totally restored, but under wraps. I want to show it to you now, but that would be like putting Easter before Good Friday. So join with me as we hunt for and repair rust on this Porsche 914. Let's inspect our Alaska Blue here and tackle some of the easier rust areas first. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at here is up here. This is the front trunk area, and this is the seal. And the seal has been glued in there. And I suspect they glued it in an effort to make it work better. However, it doesn't really do that. And so this whole area here is rusted. And they do rust in this area.
It really, if you don't take these seals out and dry them under there after you wash the car or after it's been in the rain. So to remediate this, we're basically going to have to brush this all down at a minimum, and hopefully there's no holes in there. There might be some holes, and we'll see if there are. So the next area I want to bring to attention is this front fender. Although this front fender looks fine from out here, it's actually been replaced, and we can tell that if you look at the bottom. You see the reddish color from the primer, and you see the seam where it was welded on, and that seam sealer needs to be restored. The actual repair of the fender is pretty decent, but that seam sealer is going to need to be improved so that this doesn't rust more, and it really could use a coat of paint under here as well. Here's the we've welded in some brackets for installing a front sway bar.
So the next area that we're looking at is the longitudinals, and if you know anything about 914s, you know that these are absolutely critical. They essentially are the beam that provides the foundation for the chassis, and if they start to get bad, the vehicle can actually sag in the center. The design is basically a square channel or a square tube that runs the length of the car between the two wheels. Now we do have some rust here under the jack posts, as you can see there, but it's not that bad. What can be done here, since it's only on the bottom, we could basically cut the bottom section there and repair that post area like that. If you want to remove the whole jack post, that would require cutting the fender to get access to that area. But since this one is only showing rust on the bottom, we're going to start with just cutting the bottom portion off and seeing if we can fix it that way. Now looking here at the door sills, we see that we have rust that has occurred basically every spot where there was a screw put in there holding down the door sill plate and the rockers themselves.
So the door sill is not entirely critical to the strength of the car, but we really should do something about this, and especially over here. So some of the strength is gone here. This can be either repaired by doing repairs on each rust hole and grafting in a new piece of metal, or the whole thing can be removed by removing all the spot welds and putting this whole new piece in, which they make a reproduction for. The way you go with that, it really depends at this point. It's probably about the same amount of work either way. And obviously if you retain the piece in the car, you're going to retain the original sort of structure, which does have an advantage. And if you replace the whole piece, of course you're getting a whole new piece there. But this could probably be repaired, most definitely could be repaired by just fixing each one of these holes here, and then also looking from the bottom, make sure it's okay. And right here, we do need to get into there and fix this here. So this little area here, that would have to be either reconstructed, or when you put the new one of these on, it comes with this. So, and we'll look at the other side, and we really got the same issue over here. If you look at this jack post, you see the bottom portion is rusted. The top looks good, and as you can see with the leaves and such, this kind of tells you how this sort of rusting happens. Is that the rocker panel holds real close to this area right here, and dirt gets stuck in here and just holds dirt and moisture right next to the frame there.
Although there is a repair panel for this whole section available, I prefer to leave the existing panels in the car and just repair them rather than removing the spot welds and removing the whole panel. I know this isn't always possible, but if you can do it, you're retaining more of the originality of the car. I'm all out of construction paper, so notebook paper has to do. I'm just using a little bit of duct tape to hold it in place. This little copper weld tool provides a little backing. It's more for filling in holes, but it's good to have it if you have some gaps. So we just start with a little tack. The light shows me where I need to weld more. So after some welding and grinding, you see we're looking pretty good here. Now I'm going to let it cool down a little bit and then come back and weld a little more. It's important also to have a look at the bottom side, as it will need a little grinding there too. Sometimes I'm too eager to start on something, so I neglect to do what really should be done first, which is remove the doors. And so now we have the access to be able to properly seam seal the fender. The driver's side is much the same and maybe a little worse. And there's our factory decal for the special color of Alaska blue. And so we have the satisfaction of retaining the original door sill metal in the car. At first I didn't realize this was sending sparks directly on my camera lens. Enjoy the effects. Fortunately, the longitudinal is still very strong. I have seen them where there's actually been created a hole here by the corrosion. The longitudinal is made up of multiple layers of sheet metal. If you look closely, you can see that rust caused some erosion of the outer layer. Thankfully, the inner layer was still strong, and I continue to probe it here just to make sure. The longitudinals are important, especially for a convertible, because the roof can't provide any reaction force. Often you'll see a 914 sagging. The doors are difficult to close. That's because these longitudinals have been rusted fairly bad. A good indication of advanced rust is if the seatbelt attachment points, which are on the other side, have been compromised. And this is a repair piece here for the longitudinal. What you're looking at is the remains of a piece that was used to repair the very jack point area on a car that had more rust in that area. But as you can see right there where the jack point goes, there is actually a hole there on the back side. And notice how the material there is all 2 layers spot welded together. And the zinc phosphate for the rusty longs is like what fluoride is for our teeth. Before we close this up, we're going to restore the outer skin. Whenever you do work on the body of the car, it's always a good idea to test fit panels from time to time. The short strand fiberglass filler serves two purposes. First, to provide a watertight seal. I'll be using it much like you would use a seam sealer. And two, to fill in any imperfections in the metal due to all the grinding and welding that occurred. That's all I have for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe. Do look out for the next episode where we get into the floor and hopefully start making this thing look nice again. Until next time, tschüss.